semantic, that's a scary word. All it means is meaning. But there's another twist to that. It's not just words and language and putting them in the right order, right? It's telling a story.
I mean, just at the base level of thinking about it, there's no way we could function in the world. There's so much data that's different from every perspective, every lens, and storytelling is a way to, you take a word and you say, hey, everyone, focus here for one moment. And everyone focuses on the same moment or their perspective. You get people close.
And his story was, this old fish is swimming along, these two little fish, younger fish come by. Old fish says, morning, boys, how's the water? And the two young fish look at me, yeah, whatever, Gramps. And they swim on, as you say. The two young fish look at each other and go, what the hell is water?
Come on, the water's nice.
The water's fine. You're in it anyway, right? We live in this water of stories.
Hey guys, I'm Aubrey. On this show, we explore the intersection of mysticism, technology, art, and transpersonal experience. I'm an entrepreneur, author, and cosmic advisor, covering human consciousness and the larger forces shaping our collective destiny. Welcome to The Infinite Drop. You guys, Ben Hunt is co-founder and chief investment officer at Second Foundation Partners and the author of Epsilon Theory, a newsletter read by over 100,000 professional investors. He holds a PhD from Harvard, is a former hedge fund manager, and a former political science professor at both NYU and SMU. I was in the audience when Ben delivered a keynote this March at his alma mater, Vanderbilt University, right here in Nashville, during the AI Days conference. His presentation was titled Reading the Rhyme of History Using Generative AI to Identify the Semantic Signatures of Primary Texts, TEXTS. I was drawn in by the session description, and he did not disappoint. His presentation covered topics like TV script writing, great authors in literature, political science, semantics, technology, trends, and finance. And most fascinating, how he's deriving unique insights by using language models to analyze institutional investments. Ben, welcome to The Infinite Drop.
Great to be here, Aubrey. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad that we're matching. We randomly showed up matching.
Yeah, we're all in blue today, so it looks great.
Yeah. So when I walked up to you after the keynote, I told you that I'd love if you could be on the show. I was really drawn in by so many of the things you said. You hit on some core points. For me, what resonated with me was really these core points around finding our own truths and being able to discern our own truths when right now in the world we live in, media is so loud. And sometimes it's hard to have our own thoughts when we're inundated. That really drew me in. You seem to share all different kinds of opinions on all sides of, sometimes people say, the aisle, or different ways of thinking. So I could tell that you were really somebody who doesn't feel super steeped in dogma. I felt like you were really open to exploring things from all angles, and that really drew me in. And it wasn't so much, you said a lot of great things, but it wasn't so much what you said, it was really how you were saying it, and it was the way you think about things. So very excited for people who are listening in. This is not a tech-heavy conversation. We really are going into more of the philosophical route. So for people who aren't super tech-savvy, this conversation is definitely for you too. So you opened your keynote that day, Ben, with the idea that semantic meaning is the water we swim in. Why is understanding this so critical to our human experience?
Well, semantic, that's a scary word, right? I mean, it's a very technical word in large language modeling and the like. And I don't mean it to be, right? So the word semantic, it's scary, but all it means is meaning. All it means is meaning. It's different from language, is different from vocabulary, because we can, I mean, you know this, Aubrey, we can communicate meaning without using words sometimes, right? And sometimes words get in the way. Sometimes words get in the way of communicating what we really mean. I think, though, that words, language, it's how the human animal has evolved, and it has been an evolution. It's been a physical change in our brains, our throats, everything about the human animal has changed to accommodate language. And it has become the way in which the human animal, the primary way in which we communicate meaning. But there's another twist to that. It's not just words and language and putting them in the right order, right? It's telling a story. The human animal communicates meaning through stories. It's as simple as that. And once you start looking, what I mean by kind of looking at I like to call it the semantic layer, it's beyond sentiment. It's beyond using nice words or mean words. It's beyond using any particular word. It's not about keyword search or a Google search on this term or that term. It's what story are you telling to someone else? And look, none of what I'm saying here is unknown to people. Google is this trillion-dollar corporation today because the whole idea of Google search is a rejection of doing keyword search. It's a searching on meaning. That was the whole idea behind Google from the very beginning, was that we're not going to sell to advertisers placement on our ranking. We're going to give the higher ranking to the websites that connect with whatever it is you type in to search for. They were one of the earliest ones to say, no, it's really meaning that's the important thing.
It's intent.
And
it's if you put in blue shoes, you could mean a lot of things, but there are other words you can put in next to blue shoes sale, and now they know perhaps you have an intent to purchase blue shoes, and now the results change.
exactly right, Aubrey. And that's a commercial aspect of this. What's amazing is that once you start looking for this underlying level of storytelling, not only do you see it everywhere, everywhere, but you see that there's a structure to it. You see that there's, we talk about unstructured text, the words, or unstructured data, the words we read, the pictures we see. Technically, it's unstructured. But in fact, with humans, at that semantic layer, the use of words and images to communicate meaning, there is a structure. There is a structure to story. There are a finite number of stories that we humans tell each other. Again, nothing new about this. Tolstoy, it's not clear if it was Tolstoy, but supposedly Tolstoy, said there are only two stories. There are only two stories in the world that, you go on a journey or a stranger comes to town. That's it. He said every novel, every story, every play is a variation on one of those themes.
Wow.
And he's kind of right. Now, I actually think, and this is a lifetime's worth of research, I think there are more than two. but really, it's a pretty small finite number. I'd say that for any topic you're interested in talking about, there are 1 to 2 dozen stories that we humans say about it, and that's how we communicate meaning. It's certainly true in Hollywood. Any genre you want to talk about, horror, romance, sci-fi, drama, rom-coms, any of these, there are about a dozen scripts. That's it.
That was something you said that blew my mind. You said out of all, like the long-running television show, Law and Order, and you said there's about 600 episodes of Law and Order out there, and in the watching of it, you realize that they're recycling 12 scripts over and over.
Yeah, and I mean, I've watched a lot of them, probably not all 600, but it's a pretty famous thing, a pretty famous finding that there are only a dozen scripts. Not only are there a dozen scripts, but in this show in particular, there's a very set procedural structure. Now, all of these TV shows, and really every scripted TV show you've ever seen, every movie you've ever seen, is a 3-act play. You can go online and type in any movie you like, any TV show you like, plus 3-act play, and they'll show you the structure. They'll show
Yeah.
you the
Yeah.
structure. We're hardwired to respond to this stuff, and there's rising action, there's falling action. It is literally down to a science in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, it's the hero's journey, and 12 minutes in, this character is going to do this. 40 minutes in, we have to have this happen, and it's all very structured. You know.
But can I interrupt, Aubrey? What's
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
about it is that we know that structure exists, and I bet you're like me. I'll go into a movie, I'll sit down. It's the Nicole Kidman, the magic of the silver
Yeah.
screen. I actually kind of like that commercial.
She's so great, right? Yeah.
She's great.
Nicole Kidman's
She's
killing
great.
it right now. Can we talk about how Nicole Kidman is killing it right now? She's all
Pretty
over
great.
the place. Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
So, but she's right. You sit down, the movie starts. Look, I've I've made a professional career out of studying the structure of storytelling, whether it's movies or in politics or in markets. And that movie starts, and it's like, click. I get into the story. And I tell you, Aubrey, this is what I mean about it's the human animal. We are quite literally physically hardwired for our brains to accept stories and remove I like to call it the critical distance we have from the storytelling. We can't separate the storytelling from the story itself. We immerse ourselves in it. It's how we are hardwired.
And that's kind of it's the question I asked. You said we're swimming in the semantic layer, and the example you gave at AI Days at Vanderbilt, you said you showed, I think on the slide, it was 2 goldfish in a goldfish bowl, and somebody comes to the goldfish bowl and they say, how's the water? And the fish are like, what the hell is this person talking about? Because they have no idea.
The famous story. So Dave, it's an old story, but the most famous teller of it was David Foster Wallace. Incredible novel. I mean, I'm a big DFW fan. And his story was he was doing this at a commencement address. I think it was Kenyon College, something like that. And this old fish is swimming along. These 2 little fish, younger fish, come by. Old fish says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the 2 young fish look at him, "Yeah, whatever, Gramps." And they swim on, as you say. The 2 young fish look at each other and go, "What the hell is water?" If I have a goal in life, it's to get us to see the water.
Yes.
To see that we are swimming in these stories, and that there are, just like there are currents in water, there are currents in a structure to the storytelling that we're immersed in.
Absolutely. That right there. The goal you said, or the objective, getting people to see that they're swimming in water. And it's really great right now in this time that we're living in. A lot of people are waking up to the fact that we're swimming in water. And there are still a lot more people that hopefully can start to come into that awareness more. I think it'll make things move a little more smoothly, and we'll have some of these systems of control and repression they'll lose some of their power.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. So another aspect of the human animal is that seeing is believing. That old saying, it's actually true that once you start looking for something that we've gotten all used to and we don't notice anymore. Good example: homeless people. There are homeless people everywhere, but we don't see them. They're invisible to us. Once you start looking for them, make that effort, you'll start seeing them everywhere. And it changes your whole sense of the world. And there are lots of examples like that.
Once you train the antenna, it's like once you train the antenna, it's going to find what you've trained it to look for.
100%. And look, like I say, it's not easy. Like I say, I've been doing this my entire professional career, and it's still, I get swept up in what I'm told or what I read. I'll read a newspaper or a website. I'll read a tweet, right? And I'll get all riled up. I will. It's because it's how we're engaged. And I've been doing this for 35 years, trying to maintain that sort of critical distance. So, it's not, there's no magic bullet to us. It's how we're wired. It just requires that sort of constant effort. And that's actually where I think that these linguistic calculators that we call, Chat GPT or Claude or any of these AIs, I think that can be a real help to us in maintaining that critical distance. I really do.
Yeah, I really liked when you started talking about that, and I hadn't considered that. I guess when I've always thought about technological advancements or where we're going, my brain has always gone down the route of, wow, more controls, systems, algorithms. But what's so different about artificial intelligence? On the episode just prior to this, I talked to Jonathan Mast, and he's an expert in AI, and we were really talking about how this is the first technology, it seems, that is really, seems like it can be best applied and used by people with more experience and wisdom. And it's a technology that uses language. You don't need to know how to code, or you don't need to understand where to click on the screen or where to tap. It's something that is very intuitive. And there's this growing idea, and you know this to be a fact, right? But now it's coming into the collective consciousness that vibe is data. Right?
100%.
It's measurable, it's trackable, engineerable, and this gets into the semantic sphere. And as you shared, like the best writers sort of see into this semantic sphere, and they're describing a vibe, right? They're describing the vibe. LLMs are built on a semantic layer, and we now have emerging concepts like vibe coding and vibe marketing. And people are like, what the hell is vibe coding and vibe marketing? And it's this growing sentiment that vibe is data. And I've always considered that to be a fact. Like for me, I'm always reading as an intuitive, as someone who does that for my job. That's my main source of data. I'll go and try to have objective data points, but once I'm in a vibe and I'm clear on what's my energy and someone else's and what's the combination, that's like the most rich layer of data you can get.
Vibe is semantics, right? So vibe is too casual a word, and semantics is too formal a word. They're talking about the same thing. They're ways of communicating meaning. And this is why it's so exciting to live in the time we do. These AIs, they're linguistic. They're native to this semantic layer. That's where they live. They see vibe and semantics, two words meaning the same thing. They see it the same way that you and I see color or shape. And once you kind of see that they can be your microscope into this world that's invisible to us humans, it gets really exciting because they can be used as a tool to help us communicate meaning better, to recognize when others are trying to push a vibe onto us undeservedly. And trust me, that's 1,000,000% happening. Our goal, or what I think our goal should be, is to use these tools as a shield because they're damn well being used as a sword against us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're starting to get into a topic around contextual language. And on the last episode with Jonathan, was this him or, oh no, this wasn't him. This was the episode prior with Jamie Schwartz. And he was talking about contextual language and the Pekani people and how they don't have a word for wheat. They have, the wheat in the wind. Something cannot just stand on its own. It's always the environment that it's in. And when you're talking about this, and I'm also thinking about AI, the very accessible, free AI tools that anyone can just literally go on and you just type words and things can start to come together and be created.
Can I give you the craziest example of that ever?
Go for it.
Which is that in ancient Greek, the Greek in which Homer spoke and it was later written, the Iliad and the Odyssey, there's no word for blue. There's no word for the color that you and I are wearing. Now, that seems impossible. It seems crazy, because if you've ever been to Greece or seen pictures of Greece, blue is everywhere. It's the sky, it's the ocean, it's everywhere. And yet, what I'm telling you is famously true, that there is no word for blue in ancient Greek. Does not exist. Now, people have, over the centuries, have tried to come up with an explanation for that. One of my favorite explanations, and I'm pretty sure this is where Immanuel Kant, who's one of the smartest persons who ever lived, his solution was, well, they must have been colorblind. So honestly, that's how people explain it. Now, what I think is probably more accurate than mass blue colorblindness is to look at, and this is your point, what words existed in ancient Greece for which we don't really have current words? And the answer to that is they had so many words, different words, for different properties of light. So the light glinting off a shield, the light dappling on a wave, the light coming down from a sun. They had dozens of different distinct words for different qualities of light, where for us we say, no, it's just light, and then we put an adjective next to it. Not with the ancient Greeks. They had entirely different words for these different qualities of light.
This is blowing my mind right now.
Oh,
I am a writer.
I'm telling you, look it up. Look it up.
Writer.
This is a famous thing.
I have a chapter written. It's not published yet, but I have a chapter written, and it's about the quality of light in a certain neighborhood in Los Angeles that is distinct. I mean, I lived there for so long. I was like, how is no one talking about the light in Silver Lake and near the Shakespeare Bridge? There's a quality of light that you just cannot get anywhere else, and it makes you feel different. It just creates this sense. And other people, when I describe it, they're like, yes, they understand it. But I'm like, how are we not talking about this? Something that I can feel, like the light does something there. It's coming through the sky differently. It hits the earth differently there, or it's interacting with the sky differently in this space. And like, is that an energetic thing in the foothills there, the hills? Like, what is that? What is happening?
I'm going to tell you what it is, Aubrey. It's magic.
It's magic. It's magic.
And this gets me so excited to talk about this stuff, because again, magic is one of those words like vibes, which is it's very woo, and but it's all of this is part of the human experience to understand meaning in the world, the universe, and everything. So another quick example from ancient Greece. Homer, his famous description of the ocean, he called it the wine dark sea. And that's a famous phrase, the wine dark sea. People say, well, what the hell do you mean? Another famous explanation of this was, that means that ancient Greek wine must have been blue. Right? So those are the two explanations that people came up. Either he calls it the wine dark sea, and he never uses any other word for blue. So the answer is, either they were colorblind to blue, or their wine was actually blue colored. Those are the explanations.
That's too literal.
It is, exactly. It's too literal. Blue was just, everywhere and everything. It wasn't, I think, worth mentioning. What was worth mentioning over and over again, a different way of perceiving the world. The magic they saw in the world, the magic that a poet like Homer would communicate, was around light. It's not better or worse than modern perceptions of reality. It's different.
I think it's better. You
And
know what? I'm going to jump in. I think it's better. I think that I'm actually putting a line in the sand. Literal, anybody can do literal. 99.99% of people can do literal. Your shirt is blue. How many people can look at the two of us? I'm looking at both of us on a monitor right now and describe something that lets you know that we're both wearing two blue shirts, but in a way that communicates how that feels when you experience
how
it.
it feels.
How it
How
feels.
does it make you feel?
You know that trend, it's not a trend, it's like a whole brand new way of searching and organizing and explaining things, is where you put a word or a combination of words together in front of the word core. It's really big on Pinterest. So you can say like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
cute, like
Grind
cute girl
core.
core.
I work, I work 20 hours a day. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and
Whatever core. Yeah.
yeah, and now when you're talking to people, pretty much everyone right now, most people will understand if you're talking to an interior designer and you say, hey, I want like a dark academia vibe. Or you see somebody, you're like, oh, you're trying to describe someone you just met. You're like, oh yeah, they're normcore. Or, oh, she's brat. Like, and you're like, wait, what? She's brat or she's normcore? What does that mean? And it encompasses this whole way. It can be like a vocal intonation, it can be a haircut, or the energy you feel, or the way they communicate. And all of this, like quiet luxury, that's another one, quiet luxury. It's like, wait, what? Quiet luxury? What the hell is that? But most of us at this point, if you're hearing this, you know what it means. And if you don't, go on Pinterest and start, like, put in like a combination of words and then put the word core in, and you'll start to see visuals that express a feeling. And it's not a literal thing; it's a feeling. And
What's
because
phenomenal about this, Aubrey, if I can just
yeah, go for it.
what's so amazing about the day and age we live in is that there actually is now a scientific rigor to understanding vibe, core, magic, meaning. It's all part of, the technical term semantics. And what a time to be alive where we can actually put some rigor, which is important, or at least is important to me, because I do believe that we want to be able to replicate and repeat things that are good for us and for humanity. And to do that, we do need to measure, not as an end in of itself, but as a way to make iterative improvements in life, in language, and the communication of meaning.
This is really important, and I am going to put a pin in this. So for everyone, if you've probably forgotten, but Ben is actually an expert in financial markets, and he is he has a track record in investments that's a lot of people trust. 100,000 investors subscribe to his newsletter. So the conversation we're having, you may think, oh, he knows semantics and language, obviously an expert in that, but I'm going to put a pin in that because what you just said is so critical, right? One of the reasons perhaps that I know you're fascinated with this for many reasons, but one of the reasons is probably because it's also assisting you in your work in the financial markets and investments. Is that true or not true?
Hollywood and Wall Street are the great storytellers of our lives. I'm serious, right? There are a dozen scripts in Hollywood. There are a dozen scripts for Bloomberg and CNBC and for Wall Street. The whole notion of, buy, or the idea that we often talk investing about a multiple. Oh, there's value here. Value, growth, all of these things are just stories. Mm-hmm. It's all stories.
When you were talking...
And by the way, I do want to, about Epsilon Theory, like, this is not a blog or a newsletter where I'm picking stocks. So I don't want anybody to go there thinking as that. That ain't what I do. The world needs another tout like it needs a hole in the head. What I write about is the way in which Wall Street, the business of Wall Street, is there to tell you a story. Doesn't mean it's a lie. Doesn't mean it's wrong. You need to recognize it as a story to maintain critical distance. And honestly, Aubrey, we need to do this in politics too. We do it when we go to the movies. We go to the movie, we immerse ourselves in the story, and then we step out of it. We need to feel the ability to do the same when it comes to our money and our vote. All of these things, we need to recognize the storytelling, not to reject it, because we are storytelling animals, is how we make sense of the world. But just to recognize that you're being told a story and to maintain, like I say, that sort of critical distance so you don't give your heart to it. That's it.
And your money on accident, or your health, or your brain, or your ideas, your vocal box, so that you have
your
critical
attention,
distance.
And the worst that your autonomy of mind. That's what we give away. We give away our autonomy of mind, and we outsource our thinking, and that is
We're seeing the results
very
of
sad when
that.
that happens.
Yeah, we're seeing the results of it. And I think what's great is I feel like people are waking up out of it faster than maybe I would have. If I had to take a guess, if I was on a game show outside of the video game and looking, I'd say, oh, it will take them much, much longer to realize what's happening. But humans were pretty incredible. And I feel a lot of people are starting to become hip to it. They're starting to become aware of it and pull themselves out of it. And hopefully more and more will follow suit.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
It
does to me too. It does to me too, Aubrey.
Does.
It's a race, I feel like, because at the same time where I do feel like people are kind of waking up to the storytelling tools are becoming so much more powerful. The devices, I call it my little dopamine machine, which I'm addicted to. We allow messages to wash over us more and more. So it's a bit of a race.
Mm-hmm. It is. And yeah, I wanted to put a pin in that because I have a question. I want to kind of leave with a question at the end, but you opened up this idea of like trust and having the critical distance. So when we were talking about sort of like normcore or like these phrases and you just know what they mean, those are really like semantic fingerprints if we think about it. I think they're like semantic fingerprints. And now that we have language models and social media platforms, those are semantic amplifiers. And so we're in this era where understanding and engineering vibes, it's a very powerful thing that people have the ability to do and companies have the ability to do. It's creating a felt sense below what you see or the words you're hearing. Let's just talk about words. Let's isolate it to words, but it's a felt sense under the words. And it's really determining who and what captures our attention the most, and then where we're building trust. So if someone is able to reverse engineer the vibe that they know people most want to feel or people most get relief from, you have a very powerful, it can be tool for empowerment, but I'm just going to go tool like a weapon, honestly, a weapon to be used against us. So how in your work are you uncovering, identifying, and leveraging semantic fingerprints to be able to create critical distance for yourself and for the people who are maybe investing or making other decisions in their day-to-day lives?
No, you've described it exactly right. It's the words are a magic spell. They're a spell. And the way I like to think of it, to pull forward another kind of story arc, this is defense against the dark arts. That's what we're engaged in here, is defense against the dark arts, to use your Harry Potter oeuvre here. And there are different levels of defense against the dark arts. I think that there are easy steps that everyone can take to give themselves a bit of a shield. It's not foolproof. You will find yourself sucked into a story, no matter how practiced you are at this. But it can help. And that first layer of defense is whenever I read something, I just ask myself, it's like a mantra, right? I ask myself, why am I reading this now? That's it. Why am I reading this now? Because it forces me to step back and think, this thing that I'm reading or that I'm hearing, it didn't just magically appear. I put myself in a position to hear it. Other people put this communication here for me to absorb. Why now? Now, the answer to that might be, oh, it's an announcement of this thing that just happened. And so that's why I'm hearing it now. And they say, well, lots of things are happening right now, all around us. Why this? Why is this being presented to me as something that I need to pay attention to use your very apt description? Particularly if I'm reading something that happened in the past. Big story on Wall Street Journal today about Elon Musk and all the kids he has. Why am I reading this now? I mean, I found it interesting. It's a good story. There is motivation. Again, doesn't mean it's a lie. Doesn't mean it's evil motivation. But the presentation and the representation of a story arc is a choice. And I really find that if I'm just asking myself, why am I reading this now? Just that, it can kind of break me out of the spell.
I do something similar with social media. Sometimes I'll need to send a message, right? And the algorithm gets me, and then I'm a few minutes in, and when I notice that, I'll stop and I'll think, what was I trying to do before this? I have a few questions. It's like, how much time have I spent doing this today? And then the question that really hits me is, what am I missing out on by doing this? And often it's like, wow, I could have had a 5-minute walk outside. You still have 5 minutes left. Go ahead and take advantage of that. Or actually, I really wanted to get through a set of emails today. So it's catching ourselves in it, but it is so powerful. It's so seductive. And I don't know the answer for not getting looped into it in the first place, besides perhaps doing more extended detox, where then our sensitivities to it become resharpened or reignited. Because if you've used your phone every day for the last year, what if you're somebody who's used your phone every day for the last 2 years? Now it is such a part of your awareness and consciousness that it would be very difficult to discern when you're making choices on your own and when the phone is making choices for you, the algorithm, the platform. And yeah, just thinking about the stories, it's like we sit passively a lot of times and we're served things, right? You go to watch a YouTube video to learn something, and then the next video is served like, oh, this person's interesting. And then pretty soon it's like, oh, we're out in the metaverse and we're floating around and we're untethered from reality. And we've absorbed so much information. And so there's that happening. Our time is being taken. And then on top of that, all of this data coming in and the words and the media is using these parts of our brain. Our memory is being filled, just absolutely filled to the past a maximum capacity. And with that, there comes a cost. There comes a cost at not having time for silence, your own original thoughts. I put a video out on Instagram. It just came to me one day. I put it out. I got so much engagement on it. And I just looked at the camera. I said, what is the last original thought you had? Stop. What is the last original thought you had? And a lot of people are like, I have no freaking idea. I can't even remember the last time. I can't remember. And it's huge. And when we don't take that time, and when there's something that's so seductive that can fill the space and excite us and entertain us, and the dopamine hit, it's really hard. But taking that time, I've done a couple digital detoxes before. I went to a digital detox camp for adults in outside of San Francisco. It was so great. You check in, they take your devices, and all week, it was in the Bay Area. And so one of the rules was you couldn't use your real first name and you couldn't say where you worked, so that if anyone there was of note, people couldn't try to network, or, it was like,
so
you just
smart.
have a fake, you have a fake name. So I had a nickname. I didn't have my job, and I was with strangers, and it was so wonderful. And then coming back, it was just such an immersive experience. And then coming back, you're so aware of your device. And I also went to a concert, a Jack White concert with my cousin up in Portland. And we went and they had those bags where you have to zip your phone in the bag and they're locked.
Mm-hmm.
So that Jack clearly doesn't like phones out at his concerts. He's like, enjoy the concert. It was, I mean, it's obviously Jack White. So like, hello, it's going to be F-bomb incredible. Like it's the best thing you've ever seen. But he was in such a deep state of flow playing the guitar and just the entire arena. It just felt like we were levitating and it was incredible. I was like, damn, this is what concerts used to be like. I remember that. I remember going to festivals and concerts before cell phones were rampant, and it was such an incredible energy that was created. And that's a large scale, more extreme example of that. But that's also happening day to day. It's happening in coffee shops. It's happening where you work. It's happening with your family. And that very powerful connective energy that I have described, many people have described, but I in particular was describing this when I was a child. I said one day to my mom, I said it many times, but I said, I think God is not the thing at church. And I was little. I said, I think God is the feeling when all the people come to church. I think it's all their feelings mixed together. And I feel how I remember it, and my mom is going to listen to this so she can remind me, but how I remember, she'll remind me if my memory is accurate. But I remember being younger, and I think I was probably 10, maybe a little younger. And the way I remember it is that was kind of a concept that seemed a little bit newer to her. She was like, whoa, like that was interesting. And I never really got tied into a religion. That's never been my thing. I've always felt like I don't need someone to tell me how to connect to God. I don't need an intermediary because I've always felt the energy. I've always felt it. I'm like, oh, and there's a saying, I'm going to butcher it. So people that are religious, don't hammer me on it. I'm trying to get it right. But it's something like where two or three or where one or two are gathered in my name, I think is one of the translations. There I am. And it's this idea that if there's more than one person gathered, that collective vibe, I think that's what is being said, is God. It's the experience of the separate things coming together as one. So I feel that what you're sharing when you go on these platforms and you're talking and you're doing keynotes and just the work you do and you enjoy doing it and you're writing all the time, like quite prolific how much you write on Epsilon Theory. And I just think it's important for us to get back in touch with the semantic layer and for us to remember that we are swimming in water. I think we've forgotten that because we've lost touch with our physical senses and our physical reality. And we don't.
Aubrey, can I pull a couple of things out from what you've been talking about? Because it's so important, I think, in the same way that I find that asking myself, why am I reading this now, is a nice little mantra to use to try to break the spell from being gripped by the algorithm, as you're describing. I love what you're talking about having an independent thought and where do we find that independence. Now, I want to come back to this notion of intermediation because you're absolutely right that intermediation, whether it's between the intermediation of a priest and the divine and the laity, whether it's intermediation of an idea and the teacher and the classroom, I want to come back to this question of intermediation, right? And I want to come back to that. But I want to stick with this notion of, well, what can we do to try to have more independent thoughts, to not get sucked into the algorithm? And I want to suggest to you, and it really comes out of a lot of the things you were just saying, is I think that there are I'm going to give you three verbs that I found are a way to think about our behavior to try to reclaim our autonomy of mind. And that our goal in life should be, I call it make, protect, teach. Those are the three things. I have a very expansive definition of what making means. Making means making music. Making means building an engine, writing a book, writing a poem. Make has such a wonderful ability to drive the algorithm out. It really does. I remember telling my kids, yeah, it's still around, the maker fairs, right? Where the whole idea is just build something, just make something. It doesn't have to be for anything, but just to make. Protect. When you're protecting, and this is the obvious protecting, your police, your fire, your EMT. Honestly, you're a financial advisor who's a fiduciary. Your goal is to protect. That creates a shield against the algorithm sneaking in and taking over your thoughts. And teaching really does. Right? Teaching, absolutely. You're not a hostage to the algorithm. You're communicating knowledge or an idea to another human being. So I find that is another kind of mantra: make, protect, teach.
I like that.
That
make,
if
protect, teach.
Make, protect, teach.
And
I like that. Being a manager is not making or protecting or teaching. Now, that's okay. That's okay. We all have our day jobs. That doesn't have to be your identity, though. That doesn't have to be who you are. So I'm not saying, you need to quit your job as a manager, or
it just means you have to have
other
things going on. Yeah, you have to have things going on that
not define you.
Yeah.
Does
that
not
are coming
define
from you. When I have projects, when I'm writing something, when I'm writing a book, I'm always doing stuff. Writing a book, building a website, I'm painting, making art, planning. It's like I have zero desire to even be on my phone because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited about what I'm creating. It's like that. He's like that maker or creator feeling. So
exactly right. So why am I reading this now? And then I really tried to live by these precepts of make, protect, teach, because that's the humanness that I think gets close to being, our divine. It's the spirit of man, is to make, protect, and teach. Getting back to that question of the intermediary, I think that mass society, billions of people, it requires intermediaries. But what happens is that the intermediariness becomes the thing in and of itself, right? It's the politicians become the thing. The priest class becomes the thing. This was Martin Luther in the Reformation. Mm-hmm. It's natural, it's human. Mm-hmm. We need intermediaries for a functioning mass society. And we need to remember that intermediation is not...
You can't be codependent.
It's not the human spirit.
Yeah, you can't become codependent on the tool, right? It's like I have a friend, and she put a podcast episode out recently with her co-founder, and they talked about the codependency that's so rampant in society right now. And you can see it when people are going absolutely apeshit over politics and things. And it's like, slow down. Like you become codependent, and you have to pull back, get that protective distance.
Exactly right. And the way to create that distance is to recognize, so another idea here is you're looking to find your pack. And that could be your family. For a lot of people it is. Some people it's not. But you've got to find those people. What is a pack? A pack is a group of people who treat you as an autonomous human being. And what I mean by that is they do not treat you as a means to an end. They do not treat you as a means to an end, and they require that you treat them as an autonomous human being. You have to find those people who do not treat you as a means to an end, and you have to reciprocate. That's your pack. There is no political party that does not treat you as a means to an end. There is no corporation that does not treat you as a means to an end. You are an object that they want to use for their own purposes. Doesn't mean it's bad, but it means you recognize they are not your pack. And so you can't give your heart to them. No. But that's what we do.
And even outside of like politics and like the media, it's like even the people you're around there, I mean, this is just documented. There's such a rise in like traits of narcissism and people who are they don't even know how to relate unless they need something from you or they're using you. And so being able in your own life to discern who are the people who don't require me to like be giving them something, like
Exactly.
who are the people in my life who I actually enjoy being around, who I'm myself around, where I'm not trying to get something from them. And you have to get really honest with yourself, and it could be really
Boom.
painful, but it's like the end of the day, you know, and this is just a byproduct of getting older, I believe, getting more experience. I think this is just part of what happens. Your social group typically gets smaller and smaller. There's a lot of factors for why that happens. Some people, that's not the case. This isn't a blanket statement, but for a lot of people, there's a whittling down on your inner circle. And it's when you start to realize over time, are there certain people that only are around when they need this, or only check in when this is here? Who are the people where I can just really be at all phases and stages of who I am, right? You're not abusive, but you're just going through the human experience. Who is there and who's reciprocal in that? And where is the vibe flowing back and forth? And like you said, there's not a lot of organizations on a larger scale where that is going to be the case. I haven't found it. It's not your health insurance company. It's not your TV, you know.
I'll give you two. I'll give you two organizations that have historically been pretty good at being intrinsically not trying to use you as a means to an end. And that is the world of sports and the world of religion. Now, both of those cases, right, they've grown to scale so that you lose that sense of community, of being, you know, I'm there because I'm a fan, right, and on a sports team. That's definitely being whittled away all the time. I'm there at this church because this is my community. That's also gotten whittled away. But this is not the first time in the history of the world that these dynamics emerge. And what's crucial is that we always find ways to pull back from the scale. Scale is a problem for everything, particularly for human groups, and to come back to a scale that is human-sized, where we can actually interact with people, not because we want something from them, and not because they want something from us, but because we can join together in enjoying the Jack Black concert, right?
Yeah.
You're coming together for that enjoyment.
And it's Jack White. I'm going to be very. It was not Jack Black. Jack White would roll over in his effing grave if he heard that. He'd be like, Jack Black.
That's right. That's right. I'm thinking it was yes.
No, I know. It was just like
it
was just like so funny.
That was a bad. That was a bad.
I'm like,
that'll focus on by me.
Jack White and Jack. Oh wait, it's so funny. Jack Black.
That would
Jack
be pretty
White.
funny.
Whoa, I've never even.
He's got his.
White and black.
He plays, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like he has School of Rock and Black and White. There's like a.
That's right. He's got his own band.
Yeah. School of Rock. Yeah. Exactly. So I heard you say on another podcast recently. There's line. I loved it, and you said, "The way we can change the world is by having trusted conversations at scale." A lot of our conversations right now are fractured, they're co-opted, everything we've been talking about. What does it take to actually build that trust at scale? What did you mean when you said that? And does AI support that? Like AI tools support that? Okay.
AI does support it. What really supports it though is, I'll call it digital communication. So, I started writing Epsilon Theory. This was 2012. It's an email to 100 people. And I was in a pretty dark place, as I was down about the world. I was trying to figure it out, and sent out the 100 emails, and it's like the old police song, you message in a bottle, right? Throw the message out in a bottle, and then 1,000 bottles come washing up on the shore. Because never marketed it. It was just purely from word of mouth. People would send the emails out to friends of friends, colleagues. It'd all come back. And what started with 100 became, 1,000, and then 10,000, and then 100,000 from all over the world, all walks of life, young, old, rich, poor, it didn't really matter. And what I found was this pack. people who I could have real conversations with, not looking for something from me, and I wasn't looking for something from them. And that has just changed my life in just such a profoundly positive and powerful way, to know that you are not alone. You may not be able to easily find that pack or that communication with, the people at work or the people right around you or the people at school, but your pack is out there. They really are. And we have the tools at hand, convinced that AI is one of them, if we control it, to find your pack and to have those direct communications, trusted communications at scale, not at the scale of the Kardashians, right? But at the scale of, can I imagine a situation where I've got 500 people? I mean, that's kind of what I'm living right now. And yeah, that's my number. Different people, it's a dozen people. The number is going to be different. I think there is safety in numbers. I think you want the largest number you can, where the communications are trusted and where you're being treated as an autonomous human being and they demand the same.
And where you can also just have conversations back and forth, and each of you coming from a different viewpoint. Like this show's called The Infinite Drop, and there's a few meanings for it, but like the infinite drop of consciousness in the ocean. And when you have a trusted group of people and you all are coming from different viewpoints and have different, ideas, you can push back and say, hey, actually, I thought this, or you thought this. And then instead of just all getting a megaphone of like, hate this person and they're the enemy and this is your savior. And it's like, it's so like, it's an opportunity to move away from reductive language and reductive thinking into nuanced, connected, like conversations, which is what we were designed to do. And it's what makes us feel the best.
Aubrey, the semantic layer, the most powerful message of the semantic layer, and this is in every religion, is love. Again, that's it. That is the most powerful level of meaning. And the amazing thing about love, and honestly, in all these old stories of meaning, including hate, but we'll focus on love and empathy right now, they don't obey, they're not subject to entropy and the physical laws of distance and time. It's a different dimension. And I know this sounds awfully woo, but I think there is this informational layer that you can approach through actually rationality and science and rigor. What it means to not be subject to entropy and laws of space and time is that it is infinite. It is in a little drop of meaning, a little drop of memory, an entire ocean unfolds. And Shakespeare knew it, Proust knew it, right? When he's talking about remembrance of things past, which he's taking from a Shakespearean sonnet, when Proust is talking about memory, and it's the Madeleine, right? It's the little cookie, and just triggers a memory. We've all had this experience where there'll be a trigger, and it's like a little seed or like a little drop that becomes an ocean. Everything just unfolds from that. It was always there, but it was also always impossibly compressed and out of our dimension of attention.
It was camouflaged. It was camouflaged until the attention falls on it, and then boom, like a whole new world opens up.
Yep. It opens up. It is an unfolding, this dimensional unfolding. And it's so exciting to be able to talk about these concepts, which again have been with us for thousands of years and are at the heart. They are the beating heart of every religion that's ever been practiced by humans, is this notion of the word, the logos, the Tao. It's always been there. And we're now able to approach it using these tools that are native to that dimension. And that's really exciting to me as an explorer, as somebody who wants to make, who wants to protect, and someone who wants to teach, who wants to reclaim my own autonomy of mind away from the machine that I'm addicted to, the dopamine machine, and try to get others to join me.
Come on, the water's nice.
The water's fine. You're in it anyway. You're in the water anyway. It's not bad, right? We live in this water of stories. Narrative. I've been writing about narratives for 20 years, and when I first started writing about it, it was like, oh, what is that? What the hell is water? And now it's gone too far the other way. People say, oh, that's just your narrative, man. Like the Big Lebowski, and where narrative becomes a bad word. And it's not bad. It has nothing to do with bad or good. It's just human. And we have to recognize that storytelling and seeing the world through stories is just what makes us human.
It's what makes us human. I mean, just at the base level of thinking about it, there's no way we could function in the world. There's so much data that's different from every perspective, every lens, and storytelling is a way to, you take a word and you say, hey, everyone, focus here for one moment. And everyone focuses on the same moment or their perspective. You get people close rather than having the whole room, the whole world. They focus. And then from there you say, okay, follow me. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow it. Follow it. And then we can get a shared sense of something. It won't be exactly the same, but it's the closest thing we have. It's closer than anything else we have. It's closer than anything else.
We have a shared sense of something. That is the human experience, a shared sense of something. Our goal, I really believe, should be that shared sense of something should be one that uplifts towards an autonomy of mind, towards a community of spirit, rather than one that atomizes and alienates us. Oh, yeah. But that doesn't work at scale. What works at scale is the alienation and the means to an endness. So that's why it's a struggle. It's a race. It's however you want to describe it.
Mm-hmm. But what's exciting?
We live in interesting times.
Yeah, what's exciting, you said this when I first heard you speak in March, and you said, we don't have to be told what to think anymore. And This just fired off everything in my body. It made me so happy because, my whole life I've been really vocal and loud against voices of authority. It started in school when there were rules that were very arbitrary and made no sense. I would say, well, why? This doesn't make any sense. Does anyone else see that this is foolish? Why can't I sharpen my pencil when it broke? Why do I have to stop and interrupt the whole class and raise my hand to walk up and what? That doesn't make sense. Just keep teaching and I will go sharpen my pencil and sit back down and keep taking notes. Things like that. Super vocal in 2020, 2021 saying, hey, red alert. Let's just ask some questions. This seems pretty weird. Do you guys notice how odd this is? Let's ask some questions. I've always done that. And when you said, hey, we now have the opportunity where we don't have to be told what to think. And I want to know, how is AI positioning us currently? How do you go from that concept to it actually being something where we can just truly come to our own conclusion on things? How do you see AI facilitating that?
I'll say a couple of things here. The first is that when I say we can think for ourselves, it's important not to think that we are going to become independent of storytelling or of others telling us stories. For example, when Elon, one of his big things on Twitter is, you are the media now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not true. That's simply not true. We can't get away from the storytelling that we're immersed in. We can't get away from the pull that storytelling has to draw us in so that we accept it unquestionably. We're never going to get away from that. And that's okay. We just have to recognize that this is the human limitation. Same way that I wish my eyes were better and I didn't have to wear these glasses that are somehow, they've gotten bent or something, right? So that, sorry, my eyes, this is the human condition. So I think that's really important, that yes, we're smart enough to make up our own damn minds. That's really important. It's also really important, though, to recognize that making up our own damn minds doesn't mean that we're not impacted and influenced by storytelling.
So it's not so much the technology is going to help. It's really, it's just becoming aware. It's like our own awareness. It's like we can't rely on the tech. Yeah. Okay.
You got it, Aubrey. Now, the technology is both used to pull us into a story without us realizing we're being pulled into a story. Right? So there's that. And the technology, the tool, can help us enormously to have better conversations and to see the distance, the critical distance that we need to have from the storytelling. So it's a sword against us, it's a shield that we can use, it's all of that. It's neither good nor bad, in the same way that storytelling is neither good nor bad.
What's so great with these free tools that are out there, if you're one of the people listening, I know I have a lot of people that listen to this show that have way more experience in life, and they may be some of the people that are a little more timid or unsure or intimidated by using these tools. They're free. You can just go to Google Gemini. Just go to your Google bar and type in Google Gemini. You can start there. You can type in OpenAI, ChatGPT. There's a free model there. If you're on X, formerly Twitter, Grok, there's a little tab now. It says Grok. You can just go there and try this. You can just type in a sentence like you would in Google search and start using the tools that way and getting familiar. And what's so great is, I think where you were kind of going with this, Ben, is that we now have, like, the phrase democratization of information was really popular a while back when we were first getting access to this like seemingly infinite internet. Now we take it a step further, and there's inferences and connections that can be made, and a searching on a level that's much, much different from our traditional search models. And I think what you're saying is now there's the ability, once we have the awareness is step one, you're in a story, get some critical distance back from it, and then you can start to ask questions, like be creative in your own mind, think for yourself and say, well, wait a minute, I just read this story that I'm going to make something up here, that bread prices are higher because of this person. You can go to one of these tools and say, hey, I heard this story that this is why it's happening. Can you give me other reasons why this could be happening? Or you can go, hey, I noticed this and this. Are these connected in any way? And still remembering that you're still using a tool that's in a story that's pulling from collective stories from the past, but it can just start to open our brains up in new ways.
I love that. What I encourage people to think of is that the goal is to be human. And being human means make, protect, teach. Being human means seeing the water, and especially the most powerful current in the water, which is love. Where I think that the tools we have today are so amazing is that they allow not just search, but they allow discovery, which is a very different thing. And I feel like discovery is at the heart of making, protecting, and teaching. What do I mean by the difference between search and discovery? So I'm of an age where I would go to the library when I was a kid. I loved going to the library. And you'd go to the big card catalog and you'd search for a book.
Dewey Decimal System.
Shout
out all those amazing librarians.
Right. You'd write down the code, then you'd go search in the stacks. You say, oh, here it is. Then you finally find it, and there's your book. That was search.
Isn't it interesting how the Dewey Decimal System, I just thought of this, kind of looks like an IP address?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
no.
The Dewey Decimal was an amazing system for me.
Okay, hold on. Whoa.
But here's where discovery happens, though. And it is related to the Dewey Decimal System. So you find your book. You're there at the library. You're there at the stacks. You find your book. And that's a great experience. Okay, great, I found the book. But the experience of the library that is the most powerful, is the most uplifting, is when you start looking at the books that are next to your book. And you start looking at the books that are on the shelf above and the shelf below. And you start looking at the other side of the stack. That's what discovery is. Search is finding that book in the stacks. Discovery is, hey, here are other books around it.
It's the context around it as well. It's like
There's a context, there's a relationship, but now I can engage in discovery. That's what AI allows you to do. My strong argument is don't play gotcha games with it and don't search with it. The goal of ChatGPT is not to search for some fact or some answer. The goal, or the value, the unique value that comes from these non-human intelligences is when it comes to discovery. To ask about connections, to ask about what comes out of this, to ask open-ended questions, not, I want to find something. It's not search, it's discovery. And once you open yourself up to discovery, Aubrey, then the creativity starts. Then the making and the protecting and the teaching can just take over.
The rabbit holes are so endless, and you just did the best description of search and discovery, to tie it to something physical where I could feel it. I was like, oh, like that even just changed. I mean, I've been using AI tools for 2 years now, and daily, and like I've never sounds weird to say now that I'm saying it, but I've never zoomed out to think about the technology past a flat plane. Like when I'm thinking about it, I'm either like reading about it, so it's on a flat plane, or I'm thinking about the technology in a flat plane diagram, but I've never zoomed back, critical distance back from it to look, how would it look in the 3D? And with that, I was like, whoa, now my brain is thinking of other use cases. Like, how much have I been missing in
This is
value?
the technology. So the technology, and what we mean by being native to the semantic dimension, is that, again, $10 word alerts here, the vectors, the embeddings, it's the relationships, it's the context, that word you've been using. Really, think of it as like this infinite library of stacks and shelves, and the organization, the Dewey Decimal System, is the embeddings and what makes a large language model work. It's like, if you remember the movie Interstellar, right? At the end there, where Matthew McConaughey's in this, extra dimensional world of all the bookshelves, right? That's a large language model. That's AI. That is it. It's not just flat. It's not 2 dimensions. It's not just 3 dimensions. It's a lot of dimensions, to the point where the human brain is like, whatever, right? But just think of it in those terms, that it's discovery and it's the multidimensionality. That gets so exciting because we've all had that experience, or most of us have the experience of being in the library and saying, oh, I found my book. Oh man, what's that there? What's that over there? And just that joy of discovery.
I would spend hours in the library, hours at Barnes and Noble. I would go to Barnes and Noble back when it was everywhere, all day. You just get a coffee, you're sitting, you're reading all the books for free. Walk
Get a
out,
comfy
thanks.
chair. No, it's the best.
I kind of feel bad. I was like one of the people that maybe helped make it go down, because I was like reading and never buy. I was like, see ya.
Buy something. I'm not going to buy anything.
You're not buying anything. Yeah. You're just a library that's fancier. It's like, oh man, when you were saying this, you just said the infinite library. It's interesting. I started a Substack community. I'm not putting a ton of effort into it right now, but I plan in the future to expand it out. And I have a subscriber section, and inside of it is something called the Infinite Archives. And it's meant to be an accompaniment to this show, The Infinite Drop, where I learned how to build an AI agent at Vanderbilt AI Days. And so I'm going through a walkthrough, and subscribers can have like a simple tutorial from someone who's not tech savvy, who will show them how to do it simply. And just collecting ideas and viewpoints and things that I feel are really interesting and can just grow off into eternity, because I plan on having this show. It's I've had a lot of creative outputs over my life. I've written books, and I've done a lot of things. And this is the first thing where I feel like there's a sense inside of me. I'm like, oh, this feels like legacy. This feels
Yep.
like something that this is what I do all the time. I'm always having conversations and deep diving in my thoughts and journaling and putting thoughts. I mean, I get paid to connect dots for people in business and in the intuitive realms. I love doing this. And to be able to share it and I've had listeners and watchers of this show reflect back to me, quite a few people. It's so great because you're having it's like I'm sitting there in the room and I get to be like part of or absorb this conversation that I would never have the opportunity to have. And there is something about AI. I feel like that sort of kind of going all over the place here, but I feel that sort of feeling that people have reflected to me when I'm using these tools, and I jump to different tools for different reasons.
Exactly.
I'm starting to
Aubrey,
realize
so
like,
you're not jumping all over the place at all. You're hitting at the heart of it, which is that I get the sense that you use AI for, and I certainly do, is I just have a conversation.
oh yeah,
I have a conversation and it takes me in directions of discovery. It's not so much burrowing rabbit hole as it is expanding. And it's really wonderful. Yeah, you have to be a little careful, right? Because I mean, the goal of the AI is to please you.
oh yeah.
It wants to make you happy. And so
I check
it's
it
like,
frequently. I'm like, hey, I think you're trying to make me happy, and that's great. I need you to back up, and I'll see. Like you can
yes,
feel
so
when it's
important.
starting to become your
So
friend.
important.
It's like I'm your
Because
friend. I'm
they
like,
want to
whoa,
get and
whoa.
compliment you. And God knows when you have a healthy ego, you say, well, yes, that was quite a smart question, wasn't it? Oh, thank you.
When
Thank you,
it when it
ChatGPT.
when it compliments me, I'm like red flag. I'm like we're
Exactly.
we've lost the plot. Let's back it up.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because it
But
acts like a little Labrador. Or what do they call, not a Labrador? A little retriever. What do they call it? Is it a Labrador retriever? Is that the? Am I getting that right?
yeah,
The breed of the
yeah,
dog
yeah.
that's so loving and always licking you. It's
So
like
loving. Yeah. Yeah.
when it's golden retriever. That's what I was thinking of. When it goes all golden retriever, that's like red alert. Back up. Back away from the technology for a moment.
But it is for having conversations and for discovery. And if you use it that way, it's not for search. It's not for gotcha moments. It's for discovery. And it's wonderful in service to your own making, protecting, teaching.
Well, I have one more question here. We're coming up at time, but I have one more question, and it's where I kind of put a pin. I'm very interested in this. I know there is at least a subsection of the people that follow this show that are in the financial space and the investment space. And so I was wondering, as an investor and you're a former hedge fund manager, you know how much that success in financial markets has depended on obscured pattern recognition. That's obscured to all but a few who know how to do it, do the calculations, and then also insider knowledge. But AI seems to be shifting that because we're all starting to see the patterns. There's pattern detection is now democratized with these tools. So do you see markets becoming more free and efficient or more manipulated?
Oh, definitely more manipulated. Definitely.
That's what I'm
The
feeling.
reason that I got into markets and so many people did is because it's a game. And because we love to play the game and we do think we're good at pattern recognition and that we're going to figure out the code. That's why we all got into this, right? Professionally, because we could figure out the code. And that used to be possible in little places. There's still pockets where it's possible, but it's not possible at scale. And the narrative, the story of, oh, you just need to do your own research and democratize this, that is such a trap and a flaw, but is used against the people who are all coming into it. So,
You just made me think of
yeah.
something like I had the same sense. I've been investing in crypto for a while and I love to learn things. So I've, definitely not a major investor, but I know
Mhm.
probably a little bit more than some people. And that's not saying much at all. That was like a really silly thing to say. But
No,
what
no,
I'm
no.
trying to
It's
say
perfectly
is, yeah,
good. Yeah.
I heard myself. I'm like, I know more than some people. But there, I have like a general, like a vibe, right? A vibe check. I'm like, these markets are getting more and more manipulated. And with quantum computing coming into play, I started thinking like, does there come a point where literally it's machine against machine and it, you know, like you see those robots, like the Tesla robots, and they start like doing the same move and they just get stuck and they're stuck and then like nothing's happening. I kind of have that visual in my mind in terms of like markets, like the game starts gaming itself and then it's just a clone. And then my mind is like, well, if that happens, and then you can let me know what you think or if you've ever thought of this, it kind of seems like there may be a breakdown of the mass markets at scale and then markets become very small and in like
Yeah.
smaller communities so that, I mean, is that how it's going to happen? How you
Yeah.
see it playing out?
I think what's really happening is what Wall Street has always been. It's not about price. Wall Street is not about price going up or down. The money in Wall Street is about flow. It's not whether the price of something goes up or down. It's about, are you buying and selling? And so everything that happens in Wall Street, all the stories about price are just designed to make you buy and sell. No one on Wall Street cares whether the price of something goes up or down. What they care about is the story that makes you, oh my God, I got to buy this. Or, oh my God, I got to get out of this. It's the buying and the selling. It is the flow that is the wealth created on Wall Street.
How have I never thought about this? How have I never thought that there's no middle ground? You've never woken up one day and they go, the stock market laid completely flat today. No one did anything. That's never happened in the history ever.
It never will.
How have I never thought of that? That's like that in itself to me is mind blowing. And
Right.
then because I'm so in the story, I'm like, oh yeah, the stock market goes up or it goes down. It goes up, up, da, 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 da. Crypto markets up, down, up, down. But where's the pause? There isn't one. And we're so in the story that we even forget that there should be a pause and it would make logical sense, right? Unless everything's story driven.
And all the time. So look, I'm not putting it down, right? The game playing and trying to make money from it, to figure if out is going to go up or down. I mean, that's why we do it as individuals, because it's a rush, right? You're trying to figure something out. You're trying to discover. You're trying to get the secret. And there are little pockets of secrets. But what I want to tell everyone who listens to this, there are two things I think if you want to know what's going to happen in markets, the two pieces of information you need are what's the flow and what are the narratives? What are the stories? The fundamentals, they really don't matter.
We're so gossip driven. We're so story driven. It's like, what's the gossip? What's catching the wind? What are the narratives that are playing out?
Yes, and there are even bigger meta stories than that. Like, what is value? What is growth? Why are we paying attention to this rather than that? And again, it's not bad. It's not good. It's separate from good and bad. It's part of the human condition, which is being more and more manipulated is a strong word. Channeled is the right word, I think. Channeled, where you are being given stories that are designed to say, oh, that's interesting. I need to pay attention to that. I need to buy. I need to sell. And don't let anyone tell you that institutional investors are immune to that stuff. That, oh, that's just the retail investors. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, no. Let me assure you that institutional investors managing vast piles of assets are just as prone to the storytelling as anyone else. Mm-hmm. We're all human. And we are increasingly channeled in these particular directions.
Well, Ben, this has been awesome. And we're done. And scene. It's so great having you here.
Oh, I had a blast. That was so much fun.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love when I'm connecting with someone, chatting, and my brain is just like, it's like, this is my happy place. It's my love language. And when I heard you talk at Vanderbilt, I thought, first, number one, Vanderbilt, shout out to an incredible AI Days conference. I was blown away by the quality of the speakers and
Yeah, it's
just
really
the
good.
wide-ranging conversations that were happening. It didn't feel like there was a filter on what was being said. It was like people were coming from all directions. I loved that. When I heard you speak, I thought, yes, this is what the world needs to hear more of, is like pop as the goldfish and the little, I'll tie a little bow on it. We're the goldfish and we're in our little fish bowl. And sometimes just like pop your head up out of the water and realize that we're in water in a fish bowl, and just like pop your head out and get some perspective, zoom out. And you're so good
Exactly.
at helping people realize that in a fun storytelling way. So thank you for
Well,
being
thank
here
you,
today.
Aubrey. This was a
Yeah.
blast. Anytime. I love
Yeah.
this.
Cool. Okay. Till next time, you guys. Take care. Talk soon. Peace.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay immersed in the infinite drop.